Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Kopidana Balaba, Grivadari, Jaya Grivadari. Kopidana Balaba, Grivadari, Jaya Grivadari. Yasodanandana, Rajadanarajana, Jaya Rajadanarajana. Yasodanandana, Rajadanarajana, Jaya Rajadanarajana. Yamuna Tiravarachari, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Yamuna Tiravarachari, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Yamuna Tiravarachari, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Kopidana Balaba, Grivadari, Jaya Grivadari. Gopijana Vallabha Grivadari Jaya Grivadari. Yasodanandana Raja Dhanaranjana Jaya Raja Dhanaranjana. Yasodanandana Raja Dhanaranjana Jaya Raja Dhanaranjana. Yamunadira Varachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Yamunadira Varachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvadakacharya Asadhara Sadushi Shiman His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Swami Raj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Brahmanande Haribol. Glorious to the sound devotees. All glorious to Shri Guru and Shri Gaurangi. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhute Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Vacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskadyade Siddharne. Om Agana Timirandasya Garanjana Salakaya Chaksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Pandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavams Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Vaitam Sabadutam Vrijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shiva Sakans Vitams Cha Hey Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabando Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sudadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Drubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 18. King Ayati regains his youth. Text number 40. Shri Yadur Uvacha Notsahe Jarasa Statum Antara Praptaya Tava Aviditva Sukham Gramyam Vaitrishyam Naiti Purushaha. Shri Yadur Uvacha Notsahe Jarasastatum Antara Praptaya Tava Aviditva Sukham Gramyam Vaitrishyam Naiti Purushaha. Ladies. Yadur Uvacha Shri Yadu Vacha. Yadu, the eldest son to Yayati, replied, Na utsahe, I am not enthusiastic. Jarasa, with your old age and invalidity. Statum, to remain. Andara, while in youth. Praptaya, accepted. Tava, your. Aviditva, without experiencing. Sukham, happiness. Gramyam, material or bodily. Vaitrishyam, indifference to material enjoyment. Na, does not. Ati, attain. Purusha, a person. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Yadu replied, My dear father, you have already achieved old age, although you were a young man. But I do not welcome your old age and invalidity. For unless one enjoys material happiness, one cannot attain renunciation. Purport. Renunciation of material enjoyment is the ultimate goal of human life. Therefore, the Varnashram institution is most scientific. It aims at giving one the facility to return home back to Godhead, which one cannot do without completely renouncing all connections with the material world. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Iskinchanasya Bhagavad Bhajan Mukasya. One who wants to go back home, back to Godhead, must be niskinchana, free from all affinity for material enjoyment. Raman yu pa shama shrayam. Unless one is fully renounced, one cannot engage in devotional service or stay in Brahman. Devotional service is rendered on the Brahman platform. Therefore, unless one obtains the Brahman platform or a spiritual platform, one cannot engage in devotional service, or in other words, a person engaged in devotional service is already on the Brahman platform. Mam chayo vyabhicharina bhakti-yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and comes to the level of Brahman. Bhagavad Gita 14:26. One attains devotional service, therefore he is certainly liberated. Generally, unless one enjoys material happiness, one cannot attain renunciation. Varnashram, therefore, gives the opportunity for gradual elevation. Yadu, the son of Maharaj Yadayati, explained that he was unable to give up his youth, for he wanted to use it to attain the renounced order in the future. Maharaj Yadu was different from his brothers, as stated in the next verse. Torava shus chodita pitra druyus chanus cha bharata pratya chakyor adharmagya. Maharaj Yadu's brothers refused to accept their father's proposal because they were not completely aware of Dharma. To accept orders that follow religious principles, especially the orders of one's father, is very important. Therefore, this was certainly irreligious. Maharaj Yadu's refusal, however, was religious. As stated in the 10th canto, Yados cha dharma shilasya. Maharaj Yadu was completely aware of the principles of religion. The ultimate principle of religion is to engage oneself in devotional service to the Lord. Maharaj Yadu was very eager to engage himself in the Lord's service, but there was an impediment. During youth, the material desire to enjoy the material senses is certainly present, and unless one fully satisfies these lusty desires in youth, there is a chance of one's being disturbed in rendering service to the Lord. We have actually seen that many sannyasis who accept sannyas prematurely, not having satisfied the material desires, fall down because they are disturbed. Therefore, the general process is to go through grihastha life and vanaprastha life and finally come to sannyas and devote oneself completely to the service of the Lord. Maharaj Yadu was ready to accept his father's order and exchange youth for old age because he was confident that the youth taken by his father would be returned. But because this exchange would delay his complete engagement in devotional service, he did not want to accept his father's old age, for he is eager to achieve freedom from disturbances. Moreover, among the descendants of Yadu would be Lord Krishna. Therefore, because Yadu was eager to see the Lord's appearance in his dynasty as soon as possible, Yadu refused to accept his father's proposal. This was not irreligious. However, because Yadu's purpose was to serve the Lord, because Yadu was a faithful servant to the Lord, Lord Krishna appeared in his dynasty, as confirmed in the prayers of Kunti. Yado priyasyan Vaivavaye. Yadu was very dear to Krishna, who was therefore eager to descend in Yadu's dynasty. In conclusion, Maharaj Yadu should not be considered adharma gya, ignorant of religious principles, as the next verse designates his brothers. He was like the four Sanakas, Chatu Sana, who refused the order of their father Brahma for the sake of a better cause. Because the four Kumaras wanted to engage themselves completely in the service of the Lord as brahmacharis, their refusal to obey their father's order was not irreligious. Shri Yadur Uvacha Notsahe Jarasa Statum Antara Praptaya Tava Aviditva Sukham Gramyam Vaitrishyam Naiti Purusha. Yadu replied, "My dear father, you have already achieved old age, although you were a young man. You were a young man. But I do not welcome your old age and invalidity, for unless one enjoys material happiness, one cannot obtain renunciation." Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhakti-vedanta Swami Tanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskyatyade Satarane. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Naisti buddhiyo yuktasya nacha yuktasya bhavanaha nacha bhavyantak shantir ashantasya kutak sukham. Therefore, one who is not in the divine consciousness or Krishna consciousness can have neither a controlled mind nor a steady intelligence, without which there is no possibility of peace, and how can there be any happiness without peace? So, to obtain peace, we need two things: steady intelligence and a controlled mind. If we don't have a steady intelligence, we can't have a controlled mind. And if we don't have a controlled mind, we can't have steady intelligence. If our mind captures our desires, or we dovetail our desires with those of what the material nature presents to us, then material nature takes away our intelligence. And when our intelligence is taken away, we forget who we actually are and what our purpose is. And then we become caught up in thinking that if we gratify our desires, we can become happy and peaceful. After all, when we do gratify our desires, at least temporarily, we do become peaceful. The same kind of peace one gets from scratching an itch. It actually feels good. If you're itchy and you scratch it, it feels quite comfortable. But no one will claim, usually no one claims that that's the ultimate happiness. Or similarly, if you pour gasoline on a fire, the gasoline will certainly go out for some time, but then it's going to flame up again, even greater. But at least for some time one is peaceful. So that's the happiness, the material nature, and the peace that it offers, temporary peace and happiness. But if one comes to the platform of Krishna consciousness and sees things properly means one sees things in relation to Krishna and has Krishna's association, especially through the process of remembrance. Before Krishna actually appears before one, and even after he does, we associate with Krishna through remembrance. So when our intelligence is dovetailed to utilize our mind and senses in Krishna's service, then naturally, because we're taking shelter of Krishna, we're relying upon him, naturally Krishna is very kind, so he gives us his association. And in that association, experiencing the happiness of associating with Krishna and loving service, then everything else, all the other allurements, or the allurements of material nature, seem insignificant in comparison. Therefore, in the process of devotional service, there are different stages of happiness. Just like there are 6 qualities of pure devotional service, known as Klesha Agni, Sudorlabha, no, it's not Sudorlabha, Sulabha. No, it's what? No, that's Sudorlabha. No, that's difficult to. That's Shubhada, Klesha Agni. So, in Subhada, there are different qualities. As one goes through the Varna and Ashram system, then one acquires auspicious qualities. Even if one is on the lowest stage of, because Varna Ashram is eternal, so we're all going through some stage of the Varna Ashram system. In the beginning, we're in distress, and we wanted to simply get out of our distress. So we take shelter of Krishna, and because our distress is caused by our lack of awareness of who we actually are, even if we become a little conscious of our eternality and who we actually are, and a little bit detached from the pushings of our senses, then we become free from misery to some extent. And therefore, becoming free from misery to some extent, there's a little bit of good quality, because we're not impelled to do things which are undesirable, like killing animals, having illicit sex, taking intoxication, and gambling. So that even at the lowest beginning of devotional service, or even the beginning of Varnashram, then one acquires some good qualities. Prabhupada says, for instance, in the Nectar of Devotion, that even a big professor at a university, he can't control his senses. You go to the university, he's smoking, he's chasing after the young girls at the university. He invites you for a little bit of wine so you can concentrate more on your studies. So even a beginning devotee restrains from all those things, because there's even a higher taste, and even the biggest professors at the universities have, the most learned people. So-called learning, what is the purpose of learning but to obtain happiness? No one is studying to become miserable. Let me study this subject so I can. I'm too happy today. Let me go and study this subject so I can become miserable. No, everyone wants to be happy. That's the goal of life. Is anywhere we can find happiness, we take it. So, Subhada, it's all auspicious because it helps everyone become happy. Devotional service, whoever they are, can get relief from the miseries of material nature, which in the beginning is called happiness. And it also is good for everyone, gives a taste higher than material happiness, and it's, what are the other qualities? Subhada. Oh, it's happy. It's good for everyone. Then at the stage of Bhava Bhakti, we have Sudorlabha. It's very difficult to achieve, and one who's in Bhava Bhakti, he derives even the conception of liberation. Moksha lagu krit. Lagu means light. He takes it, not very significant, moksha. Why? Because the happiness is so great in Bhava Bhakti that material happiness is considered to be practically non-existent. Matter of fact, it is non-existent to a person in Bhava Bhakti. Because one is actually experiencing one's own pleasure from within. One's natural loving, spontaneous love for Krishna and everyone is always increasingly manifesting itself. And the happiness one gets from the exchange with Krishna and his devotees is even more overwhelming. So one is immersed in an ocean of happiness. As Prahlad Maharaj said, Naiva Dvijay Paratya Vaitaranyas tvavirya vayana mahamrita magnichita soche vimukha chetasa indriyartam maya sukhayam bharam udvato vimudan. That Prahlad Maharaj was offered so many benedictions, or at least a benediction from Lord Nrsingadev, but he refused it because he said, what do I need a benediction for? Whenever I chant your glories, my consciousness merges into an ocean of spiritual happiness. So I don't need anything else. So the aim of what we're doing, even sitting here and listening to class, is to come to bhava, is to awaken our natural love for Krishna. It's not that the speaker has love for Krishna and everyone else, they're unfortunate. All they can do is listen to class. They'll never get love for Krishna. So everyone has natural love for Krishna in their heart. It's dormant. Just like if you have a match, if you strike it properly, then the fire will come out. So in everyone's heart there's a natural love and attraction for Krishna. And if we perform sadhana bhakti properly, gradually that natural love will awaken. And one will feel ever-growing detachment from material existence and ever-growing attachment for spiritual existence. And then we have prema bhakti, which is beyond any conditioned soul's conception. But there we have the happiness is so great that there is no more material existence. There's only spiritual existence. One is living in the fire of spiritual life. And it's the only means to attract Krishna. So Krishna becomes, even Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the source of everything, he becomes attracted by the prema of his devotee. He becomes the devotee of his devotee. So as one great devotee said, I don't want to become, I don't want Krishna, he said, I don't want to go back to the spiritual world, something like that. Simply I want to become the devotee of Nanda Maharaj because Krishna is crawling in his yard just like a little baby. Krishna, who's controlling all the material and spiritual universes, is a little baby in the yard of Krishna. Just like we have this little child here, especially the ladies are attracted to this little child because it's attractive. Every little child, unless the child was attractive, no one would ever take care of them. As I said before, even if you have the misfortune of seeing cockroaches, then even the little baby cockroaches look attractive. They're cute, actually, little cute baby cockroaches, because little babies have to be attractive, otherwise, so that the parents will take care of them nicely. So what to speak of the Supreme Personality of Godhead when he becomes a baby? Everyone wants to play with him. Ooh, Krishna. Because he's the most attractive of all the babies. So if we come to the platform of Krishna consciousness, we'll become completely attracted to Krishna, and there won't be any more material existence. Even when we're here in the material world, it'll all be seen as it actually is, because this material world is also spiritual. It's just because we're not acting here properly, we're being presented with illusion, thinking it's something other than Krishna's energy. So that happiness is so great that it's inconceivable. Although Bhava Bhakti is also inconceivable. But we can gradually get that conception of how nice Krishna consciousness really is by the process of sadhana bhakti. But in sadhana bhakti, in the Varnashram, one doesn't start renounced. One starts by learning the process. For instance, brahmachari, guru, kule, vasandantam, guru, hitam. At the first, one has to practice just being submissive. We don't have to tie ourselves into a knot or hold our hand up for 20 years and let it wilt. We just have to learn submissiveness, which is the most difficult thing to learn. Better I put my hand up for 20 years and let it wilt than to surrender to anyone. I refuse. Let my hand wilt, but I'll protect my false ego under any circumstance. Let my false ego mature and grow, but let my hand wilt. So one has to learn submissiveness and control of the senses. So that doesn't mean that one gives up eating or sleeping or in the future even mating or defending, but one has to learn how to do it with some control. Not simply being controlled by the senses, but when the senses are there, one has to utilize them for Krishna's service, and that way we satisfy them, but they also become controlled, and they become purified simultaneously. So we don't deny the senses, but we utilize them properly so that we get three things. One is that they don't control us, we control them. Number two, we become purified. And number three, we do something which is beneficial for ourselves and everyone else. So that's necessary for sane living, that's human form of life, because we want to do things which are beneficial for ourselves and for others too. And we want to become purified so we don't become agitated unnecessarily. And we want to get some satisfaction. So that's devotional service. And we learn that by submissiveness is not simply to bow down, mister, so someone can step on me. Bow down. Ow, my head. That hurts. No, submissiveness is so we can accept and imbibe the instructions that will help us control our mind and senses and utilize them in Krishna's service so we can get detachment. So we can simply exist in a world where there's no more being forced to do anything. We do everything out of spontaneous love and appreciation. So we have to receive that knowledge in disciple succession submissively. Otherwise, it'll just bounce off our ears. It'll never enter into our heart. We'll never accept it unless we're receptive to it. Feeling. We can think about something all day long, but unless we actually become receptive, we won't be able to feel it. If we think about something, we're always rejecting it. Oh, we hear it, but we just reject it far away. Then we never become feeling. We never feel it, and therefore we never experience it actually fully. We only experience it on some mental platform. So Varnashram Dharma is an opportunity to gradually hear, think, and then feel, and then experience. And at the same time, if we're utilizing our senses and mind in Krishna's service, gradually become purified and therefore become detached. It's like chewing bubble gum. When the sugar is out of the bubble gum, there's no more attachment to the bubble gum because there's no more sugar. So when one realizes that there's only a limited amount of sugar in every piece of bubble gum, one will not spend his life simply chewing on the same piece of bubble gum. One realizes it's time to take it out of the mouth. So Varnashram is a gradual process, but we don't have so much time. But we have to follow it anyhow. But by the chanting of the holy name, especially if we take it seriously and ask Krishna to engage us in his loving service, sincerely develop the ability to sincerely ask Krishna to engage us in his loving service. If Krishna actually gives us a little bit of that loving service, the happiness is so great that we become spontaneously detached in ways that we're not even aware of from the desire to experience the gratification of the senses. Gradually that happens. And then we become inspired to ask Krishna even more sincerely to please engage, and Srimati Radharani, to please engage me in your loving service, to chant Hare Krishna with even more attention and more feeling. Happiness, not, oh Krishna, oh the energy of the Lord, I'm suffering like anything. Help me, help me. That's all right at the beginning, Krishna will help. But there's after a while we should try to realize that actually all these boogeymen in my mind, they don't really exist anyhow. So Krishna may scare the ghosts away, but why should I just waste my time scaring away things that aren't even existent? All my anxieties about things that don't even make any difference. It's like going to the dentist. the pain is not really when you get your teeth drilled, it's hearing the drill. It's the anticipation of all the pain you're going to experience. So you hear more pain when before they put the drill to your tooth and when they're drilling the tooth. Unless you can't accept it. Oh my God, they're drilling my tooth. Krishna, save me. My tooth is being drilled. I'm dying. And if you just sit there and relax and think about Krishna, then you don't now become at least partly, if not fully, unaware of the fact that even your tooth is being drilled. But if you're always thinking about my tooth is being drilled, then it seems to go on for years, the drilling. And if you think about Krishna and become aloof from it, you're not even aware of the time passed, it's all done. You ask the dentist, have you started yet? Don't worry, we're finished. Great. Otherwise, they'll sit there in pain, just like we're always sitting in pain. What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to me? If I think about Krishna, I'll go back to Godhead. And if I don't, I'm simply going to leave this body and take another one. That's all. That's what's going to happen to me. I'll go through the same thing again and again and again. So Maharishi Yati, he was intelligent enough to know that let me at least go through the process. He wasn't interested in just enjoying. He was interested in enjoying in such a way as to become renounced. So we're not advertising, just become renounced, give up all your material enjoyment, stop eating, stop sleeping, stop mating, defending. No, do it in such a way as we become purified. By becoming purified, by adding Krishna to the equation and doing things as Krishna would want us to do things, then the result is we become purified and naturally detached from the material existence by becoming attached to the spiritual existence. So Yati was intelligent enough to know that if he properly was a householder and ate, slept, mated, and defended properly, then he would become perfectly renounced, and he would become perfectly, as he developed his Krishna consciousness through the process of dovetailing his activities and his desires with Krishna's desires. So I'll stop there. Any questions or comments? Because we should also be a little intelligent, not that every time some desire pops into my mind, immediately think, well, I want to become renounced, I think I should fulfill it, no matter what it might be. We have to be a little conscious that not every desire is worth fulfilling, but there are some desires that are worth fulfilling if done properly. Yes? Any questions? Yes.
So regarding these desires, it is said that we should dovetail them with Krishna's desires, and some desires that we cannot dovetail with Krishna's desire, how to deal with them, how to purify
Try not
them.
to deal with them. Oh, we have to practice. Our first, for instance, every day we, usually unless it's a fast day, we eat. So we don't have to try and figure out how to control all the other desires. First of all, let's practice controlling how we eat. So we become expert at eating prasadam, then naturally we'll become expert, will become easier to regulate our sleeping, our material sex desire, and our anxieties over the future, our defense. That will be easier. So we work on what we can work on at first. And then naturally we'll be able to control the other senses. Even if one is a householder, still one has to learn how to control even the sex urge as a householder, if one wants to be a grihasta, not a grihamedi. So therefore eating is always for everyone, is the beginning, and then sleeping. Then one will be able to more easily control mating and anxiety. And things outside of that, well, we should try to not give in to things outside of that. I don't know what else. The desire to be famous, the desire to become great, whatever. Then sometimes we might dovetail that in Krishna service under the proper guidance. Anything else?
Is it fasting without food okay for us? If we fast just completely, that we don't eat anything, is it okay for us?
Maybe on certain days, like Ekadasi or something. Ekadasi or some appearance days. But just to fast, we have to be a little careful, just for the sake of fasting. But what do you mean by fasting? When and why?
Sometimes without food, occasionally.
It's all right. There's no problem. Depends on, everybody is different. If you have a really big body, you can fast because you have a little storage there. And if you're really thin like this and you fast, you might disappear the next day. So we have to be a little careful how to fast. Everybody is different. There's an art of fasting also. How to fast and how to recognize who should fast and how long they should fast. It's an art. What you should do during the fast. Some people have to start gradually, taking just fruit or just some juice or something. Other people can fast for a month and feel no inconvenience whatsoever by practice. So we shouldn't just do it whimsically because I wake up one day and say, well, I just think I'll fast today. Because then we might find ourselves in difficulty. We know devotees who used to fast on Bhima Ekadasi, they used to fast Niljala Ekadasi. The next day they have a pizza party. And they've been sick for a week. But they fasted on Niljala. They were alive. But what is the value of fasting one day and feeling great, and the next week you're sick? Anything else? That's it? Kvala Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande.